to another Sunday Superversive live stream. I am your host, Benjamin Wheeler, and today we are doing our Pinkerton's Ghost Q&A. How are you guys doing today? I'm here with Anthony Marquetta and Ken Dickinson.
Today is the best day of my life.
That's absolutely depressing. Whereas
Not
I
at
am,
all.
as always, not dead yet.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yes. It will remain true until it's finally not.
By old age.
By old age. Heavens forbid. I intend to go out like the old Vikings and go straight to Christian Valhalla.
I mean, sure, but mostly that's just martyrdom.
Yeah, well, yes, exactly.
Though I have told people that I just, Sierra Moreno. I'm playing...
You told people what?
What?
In general, I tell people that, I don't really view much of martyrdom if it's by a free people willingly giving themselves up to be slaughtered, rather than fighting to the last breath. If you're owned by Caesar, Caesar can do as he pleases with you.
But that makes no sense. A martyr doesn't fight back, by definition. Unless you're a Muslim martyr.
Yeah, that's true. But we're not here to talk about the details of martyrdom. Today, we're talking about Pinkerton's Ghost. Something that we finally earned money for, thanks to some of the people in the chat.
You guys are the real heroes.
They are the real heroes. They are the real heroes.
If I knew how to write legibly, I would send you all Christmas cards thanking each and every one of you.
I know, right?
Unfortunately, I'll just have to do it here. Ben, your game selections is weird as always.
I've played this before on here.
Yes, but I don't watch most of these live streams. Gentlemen, how on earth are you? Wait, you've already asked that. Never mind. That makes that question irrelevant.
I'm fine. Our stove gave out, like I was telling you guys. So we're trying to figure that out. We probably won't be able to have a hot meal for Christmas, but I'm going to jury-rig some hot pots and work it out so that at least we have something.
Wait, Ben.
What?
Do you not have a grill?
I mean, yes, but in this temperature in St. Louis, the wetness kills it.
I mean, I've grilled in the middle of snow and rain in Oregon several times.
Come on.
You don't understand. The coals don't light up. It literally...
I do understand. I've done it. I once watched my fraternity brother blow himself up using a gas grill that wasn't supposed to be used for gas. It was highly entertaining.
Beautiful. That's actually...
He didn't die, though, but...
That's actually adorable.
It was... Because he didn't die, it made it an actual funny experience. If he had died, it would have been mildly... Well, it would have been a Darwin Award.
Yeah, that's true. Let's see. Who's in the chat? Bradford Walker, it's Dusk. He thought it was a VTuber horror novel. We'll get there. We'll get there. Hey, how do you do? It's Ben Wheeler here, your girl. Today with some... Oh, kawaii. Yes. Me.
What?
VTuber.
I'm so confused.
Tee-hee face reveal.
I getcha.
It's those annoying, whiny little anime girls that Ben likes to watch. Play video games and stuff.
I don't do that at all. In fact, that's the opposite of what I do.
So what is on the agenda to talk about today, Ben? Pinkerton's
Ghosts. How well do you guys feel the second year of Pinkerton's Ghost going?
I'm enjoying it. We're getting some good episodes. I feel like our mythos is building up. I feel more confident in what each of us are putting into the characters.
Absolutely. How about you, Anthony?
I'm happy with it. I'm happier with it now than last year.
Yep.
Wonderful.
And I think things have gone better for us since last year as well. Starting that stuff off, it was kind of rough. We didn't have our characters down, that we didn't have some of the writing we wanted down. But then it started clicking, and then it's like, yes. Yes. Absolutely. It's hard to get that feel, though, especially with a project like this. Partially because it's like you won't have that many viewers, and even then, like, most of our views are starting to pick up on unauthorized, which
Right.
doesn't have a chat feature, and I have to basically like guess what's going on based on what people are saying. And to make sure I can run both the game and my OBS, I've closed down Brave, but it's like that sort of thing where if you don't know what people are saying, you just kind of have to just ride with it. But the thing is that if you spend too much time on what people want, other than producing content, you kind of get lost on what your image actually should be.
This is true.
Even beyond the usual, like, Hollywood BS that some people talk about, but just like in the full sort of measure of it, just don't, like, as long as they're not saying this is the worst thing ever, how dare you, sir? How dare you? It'll work out.
Been right there a second.
What's that?
Oh, now you're back. I can hear you now. There's a glitch in your audio for about 5 seconds where nothing was audible.
Oh, okay.
But now you're better.
Am I better?
No. I find it entertaining for me, who works in Hollywood. I suffer much less Hollywood BS, and it appears that the average person who enjoys nerdy content far too much seems to.
I'm grateful none of us are cape shit enjoyers.
I don't know what
Otherwise,
that is.
cape shit like Marvels.
Marvels?
Yeah,
I like Marvel movies. Sure. Well,
Yeah.
Since when did I not like Marvel movies?
No,
Yeah.
like the movie Bob tier enjoyment.
Oh no. Well,
Oh,
that's disturbing. Anybody who's movie Bob tier anything.
absolutely. No, I enjoy Marvel movies. I just haven't watched any since Endgame.
I've enjoyed the Marvel. Yeah, I've enjoyed the MCU up to Endgame.
Yeah, and I hear that the next Spider-Man is absolutely fantastic, and I hear that from people on our side of the aisle.
Yeah, the Critical Drinker liked it, but the Critical Drinker sometimes has a blind spot with
Well, sure.
things that he enjoys.
To be fair, so do you.
Like everybody does.
Exactly.
But I think that the Critical Drinker doesn't acknowledge that there is a blind spot, though. Like, I
Well,
don't think
yeah.
he sees the issue. I'll
He's
put it
Scottish.
that way.
He's Scottish. It's kind of our religion to not acknowledge our faults.
So what I'm trying to say, I guess, is if I have a blind spot, I will acknowledge. So I know that I have blind spots. So take it with a grain of salt. But I enjoyed this anyway. But the Critical Drinker believes that oh, it's about quality. It's not about if it's left wing or right wing. It's about if it's good or not. You got that
Sure.
with his Arcane review.
Yeah, I saw that.
You got that with this, and I don't agree with that at all. Actually,
No, I agree. Yeah, I'd much
So
prefer it if
that's-
leftists put out
I think-
bad
Hello, Carl.
leftist content.
so I think that's the Critical Drinker's blind spot. Don't get me wrong. I have great appreciation and respect for the Critical Drinker,
Right.
who is a superb reviewer. But I keep that in mind when I listen to him. It's why I wouldn't like, say, The Boys, which he loved, and I wouldn't like. I'm not really into trying Invincible.
Invincible is actually very good. I enjoyed it, and I kind of enjoyed. Boys to a extent. Season 1 was MCU, but even season 2 was hilarious because you had the most feminist character in the entire thing becoming a literal Nazi. I thought that was hysterical.
Which one?
In The Boys, the most feminist character in the entire show.
Yes, but The Boys philosophically is opposed to what we do, I guess, is kind of my point.
Yeah, sure. But at the same time, I always had a soft spot in my heart for shows that painted how humans would probably actually react if they wound up getting superpowers.
That's true. I mean, it's not a terrible concept, I suppose,
Sure.
but the flip side of this is, I don't know. There's just something to the idea of, like, the genre wasn't really meant for that. It was never designed for that. It's the reason I think that Frank Miller is a master and Alan Moore is a hack, which is probably going too far. I mean, Alan Moore can be great. Like in Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow is a brilliant comic if you've ever heard of it. And For the Man Who Has Everything was turned into an excellent episode of the Justice League cartoon. So he certainly has the ability to be great, but his supposed best works, I don't think are great. Yeah, Bradford Walker says it best, and this is where I think the Critical Drinker kind of missteps. I don't care about post-Endgame MCU. It doesn't matter if it's good or not. The MCU is done, so what we have now is zombie franchise, and those are ripe for skinwalking as SJW propaganda.
I 100%
Exactly.
agree. There hasn't been any really worthwhile opinions since Endgame came out. It killed off all three of the best characters. And now, I mean, Tobey Maguire is the best Spider-Man, so I don't really care about the new kid and his constantly whiny SJW white male neutering self.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I have a lot of issues with the new Spider-Man. I do think that Tom Holland is great. I'm a fan of Tom Holland himself, as the actor who plays Spider-Man. I had a lot of issues with the first two movies. This third movie, like, I don't know. I'm sure it's good. I believe him. But it's also like, why are you giving the MCU money at this point? Why are you giving them clicks? Why are you giving them attention? And I know his answer is like, oh, because, we care about quality. We don't care about... No, we're in the middle of a culture war. You got to stop, that's why we're losing.
Right.
You got to stop with that.
Right. It's better for us if the enemy stops putting out good content and continues putting out the absolute normie cringe trash. So we need to resist when it's the good, quote unquote, good quality stuff, when the message is still garbage.
Yeah, and we need to ignore it.
Yes.
That's the other thing. Like, he's going to make a video on it, and I'm sure it will be a good video, but who cares?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll still watch and click it because I want to support him, but I'm not going to go watch the movie.
Yes. Agreed. This was kind of my issue with Cowboy Bebop from the beginning. I remember that both Alexander, who is my absolute favorite YouTube critic, who I think is brilliant, S tier, highly recommended, he said that he thought that the Cowboy Bebop show looked like it would be good from what he saw of the trailers and the commercials. And I have two issues with that. First, what the hell was he talking about? The commercials and trailers made it look terrible. But even besides that, let's pretend he's right. You still shouldn't be watching it because we shouldn't be supporting this kind of thing. Cowboy Bebop is about as close to a perfect show as you could possibly get. I can think of literally nothing that needs a remake less than Cowboy Bebop. It is almost flawless as is. Any critiques that you could have for it are nitpicks at best. Why are you remaking it?
I mean, honestly, we should be spending money on anime. If we're doing live action, it should be anime that A, can be done easily, and B, that have never had a good quality adaptation, like Berserk. Now, I will say that the series in the 1990s, that was really good, but it was very short, and it ended far too quickly.
Berserk could work in live action. I could see it.
It's basically The Witcher. No, of course not.
But yeah, you're right. It could work pretty well in live action.
Right. It's basically The Witcher, just with a little bit less hope.
Fullmetal Alchemist, I don't know. I suppose it could, but they did
it. It wasn't good.
Yeah, I know. I've seen the movie, but I'm thinking in theory. So the thing about Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, though, is that it's the same thing. Remaking Fullmetal Alchemist after the original show made sense because the original show was both unfinished and heavily flawed.
Right.
Fullmetal Alchemist. So it was honestly, and it had a finished manga to build off of. So honestly, it was the perfect storm for a remake. Right. So that's why Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, sure enough, is my favorite anime, one of my favorite shows ever. Blah blah blah. But making it in live action, now I'm just left going like, but why? The anime exists. It's there. You could watch it. What's the point?
100%. I agree. Why watch something inferior just because it's new?
Yeah.
You've got better.
I mean, now Trigun's an interesting one because Trigun, I feel like, famously Trigun condensed the entire, it's a massive manga. and they made the anime, I believe, before the manga was finished.
Right.
And so the creator wrote like a new ending for the anime. But Trigun is a really interesting case because it's 13 episodes, but it's 13 highly, I believe 13, it might be 26, whatever. Doesn't matter. Relatively short. And I believe that Trigun is highly critically regarded, and rightly so. It's in my S tier of shows. It is an excellent, excellent show. So
Sure, you even recommended it to me with the
Yes.
dub, which I couldn't stand because the English version made me want to gouge my ears out.
See, I have to strongly disagree there because I think that Johnny Youngbosch is fantastic, and I hate the Japanese voice actress who plays Millie, but whatever.
Admittedly, I
Who
haven't
cares?
gotten to the Japanese version, so I might hate that even worse.
However you look, however you want to enjoy it. Whatever.
Fair.
It's the sub is fine. I just don't like Millie. But whatever. So not the point. Point being that Trigun is an excellent show on its own right. However, it is true that the manga is longer, changes up things drastically, and does have a different ending. So a remake of it would be interesting. But this is the extremely, almost rare, to the point of being almost unique example of having an adaptation that was forced to change things significantly and shorten things and still coming out with something actually good.
Sure.
So, but I still think that Trigun would be a show that, like, I would be interested in seeing, Trigun Brotherhood, right? Or it would be called Trigun Ultimate because that's what the second half of the manga series was called, but same difference, right? I would be interested in seeing that just to see how the manga was written. I think the reason that this works so well is because the original creator is the person who did the writing on the original. So philosophically, it's still very much in line. That was my biggest issue, actually, with the original Fullmetal Alchemist, is that philosophically, it is a very different show than Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, and
Sure.
it's subtle. I guess at least some people might find it subtle. I don't think it's as subtle as people say, but Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is a very different show philosophically than the original Fullmetal Alchemist. So, but Trigun is not different philosophically. Trigun, at its core, has the same message. And the best example of this is with Wolfwood, whose backstory in the show and the manga are totally, totally different, to the point of being like vastly different backstories and characters. Even their ages are different in the manga by like 20 years or so. And, fine and all, but what's interesting about it to me is that they still get the point of the characters correct. Like, the point of Wolfwood as a character is to contrast his philosophy and Vash's philosophy, and it's to get, have him have a life in his past that he wonders if he could redeem himself. It's supposed to be an exploration of sin and redemption and all of this stuff. And both characters, in the way that they're written, can get at that aspect of Wolfwood. So it's interesting. But yeah, as far as like, a One Piece live action is such a horrendously bad idea. And they're making it.
Okay, so now that we've warmed people up, I have a question for you, Ben, that is Pinkerton ghost related.
This is,
Ben's
of course...
eating it. Oh, he's back.
I just finished it.
I thought you were...
Have you had a proper English trifle? It's fantastic. But this is the Pinkerton's Ghost experience. You guys have to understand that this is what I go through every week. Anime. Please, guys, please.
With Ken trying to get some sort of topic change all the time.
Right? All the time. But no,
because you weebs bore me with your anime.
I haven't watched anime in a bit.
I really haven't either. I haven't seen anything in a year.
Oh,
I tried to watch the latest season of My Hero Academia, and it's just kind of like, whatever.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Yeah.
It's supposed to be My Villain Academia, right? So it's like it shouldn't be this terrible.
No, they butchered it.
Huh.
Wow. But it's such a slam dunk, like, doing things from the villain perspective. The story of how they butchered it. Yeah, the story is that this was actually a really controversial in Japan. And apparently they did not want to put a lot of time and effort into it because they were kind of hoping to move past it as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Travis was shorted out before he had to say that very important point.
Yeah, they were trying to get past it as quickly as possible because the MVA arc was extremely controversial in Japan. Because it was, the villains were the main characters, and that's, inappropriate or whatever. And especially in a boys shonen manga, like that you're gonna portray them as the leads, so not something that's normally done. And it got a lot of backlash, even though it was very popular overseas, because as well it should be. It's great, but it was very popular overseas, but very controversial in Japan. So when they adapted it, I think that was one of the reasons they didn't put a lot of effort into it. The other reason they didn't put a lot of effort into it is that they came out with the movie. It's the same thing that happened in season 4, and why season 4 was pretty disappointing. They put their effort into the movie, and you know what? The movies are both pretty good, but I wouldn't trade them for a good My Villain Academia arc.
Fantastic. But yes, Ben, my question. What on earth is this horrifying image that you have made the thumbnail for this stream? And why do you think it's not going to turn people away as it is a flayed man?
It's not a flayed man. It's Nicolas Cage acting as Nicolas Cage does.
Is he acting without skin?
Yes. Actually,
then
no.
He is a flayed man.
Actually, no. He flayed somebody else in context.
Oh, well, that won't
that
get
changes
us.
everything.
That won't get us censored by YouTube at all.
This isn't really for like the randos. This is for the fans. We are we are contractually obligated to give them QnA every now and then.
This is true. Where's our Q that we may A?
I know, right? But you know, if they don't take up their option, that's no skin off our back.
Or off our Nicolas Cage face.
Right. Or someone else that Nicolas Cage took. Actually, Mandy is pretty good. I like Mandy.
Oh, is that what that one was from?
Yep.
Not Face Off? Tragedy. I mean, really, it's just so obvious.
It's a Nicolas Cage movie. Ha 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 ha.
Yes. Well, I will say I've almost got the next episode, the Christmas episode finished, which will fall right within Ben's timeline as he was cursing and breathing down my neck to get it in by tonight.
I was 5 minutes away from hopping on a plane just to feel the soft confines of your behind in my boot as I kick your ass to get a story out.
I'm really glad you finished that sentence because it was not going somewhere good at the beginning.
It never would. It was never going to, actually. But, you do what you can with the metaphors you're given.
Oh, Lord. I did not give you that metaphor. That was not something I gave you.
I don't know. I'm spending a lot of brain power on this video game because I'm on hard for some reason. Leave me alone.
Oh, ridiculous.
Anyway, what's your question?
There wasn't a question. I was merely talking about the episode, as I figured it was a Pinkerton ghost content.
It was?
Yes.
No, it wasn't. It's from Mandy. I think it's either towards the end or almost at the end, where he's about to take out the cult that kidnapped his wife because the guy's a creep. A lot of people.
Carl Philip Gabler says that it happened in Minecraft, and he was metaphorically full. I never got into Minecraft. Always wondered, but there came a point where I was just too old to get into it and realized that it was better not to.
Yeah, it's fun as a sort of metaphorical thing, not metaphorical, mindful thing.
I've been told that you can only enjoy it properly if you are a little bit autistic, and unfortunately, I'm just at that level of intelligence where I'm not quite artistic yet.
I know. Me neither. But totally.
I cannot stand Minecraft. It bores me too much.
Since I play video games normally with like something else on, it's actually kind of perfect for that. But
as you're playing this bizarre game phone. Are you fighting KKK?
No, I'm fighting wizards.
Oh, okay. Same thing.
Right, exactly. There's some sort of cult. Something, wife might be dead, something. As these things go.
Well, sure. I mean, you really have to fight whoever it is to save your wife in whatever video game. Yep. That's why Zelda is...
Pinkerton's ghost question, Ben.
Oh,
Explain why our use of the multiverse is actually a good idea.
Oh, yeah. I'm curious about this, too.
So, first off, it's a gag. And secondly, the actual like implications of it are less serious than would be normally implied. With the multiverse and it stands in direct competition, not competition, contrast to Marvel, by the way.
No, we're competing. We're
I
competitive.
don't want to
We are
compete against
competing.
Disney.
We're gonna win, Ben. You
There,
need confidence.
there's a mouse-shaped shadow outside my house. What was that? Nothing, sir. That's right.
Mouse is already firmly.
What?
The devil rat has already lodged itself firmly in my life as it demonetized my videos, so I can't wait to win back.
Haha. That's terrible.
So,
But hilarious.
Exactly.
Someday. Please.
Indeed.
There we go. So yeah, basically it's like this. The reason why it's not hot garbage like the Marvel movies is that our multiverse has has weight to it. In other words, there are things that will happen that will have actual stakes, and at no point will we lose, shall we say, I'm trying to figure out the wording I want to do for this. The consequences of people's actions will not be removed in any way, shape, or form.
Indeed.
Well, we've already learned that Sean has lost an eye, and Jack has lost his sanity, and Jim, well, everyone around Jim just dies.
Yeah, that's fair.
And Jim has lost all loved ones and social
Yes.
connections.
Yes. It's what makes him entertaining for me.
Oh, absolutely. And for me as well.
Well, yes.
But, so when people say multiverse, they think of some sort of way that people can get rid of consequences of their actions.
Correct.
Or some sort of, like, moronic what-if plot that goes nowhere and is implied by nothing.
Which is kind of how I feel about time travel.
Yep. And that's the reason why we won't really have time travel. We'll have some time travel, as in, like, with what Sean does. But that's going to be...
Sean saves America.
Because I am a shill. I am an absolute hack. And I don't mean time travel like, oh, set right was once was wrong. Any time travel stories we have will be explicitly about preserving the timeline, not making the timeline better. For the man who has, but Sean has, shall we say, thematics with time due to how his life has gone and how his character arc is. So he'll have it a bit more than, say, Jack will.
Sure.
You know, there's going to be other Seans who show up, warning people of some future or whatever, and there'll be consequences for everyone with that. But the consequences were benign until Evil Sean showed up, because Evil Sean isn't a good Sean, but rather an evil Sean.
By definition.
Hence the name, yes.
That was wise, man.
Thank you. I also like things shaped like itself.
Evil Sean isn't a good Sean, he is an evil Sean. That's...
But I think the real question is, in his universe, is Evil Sean the good Sean, and is our Sean the evil Sean?
What?
No, he's still evil.
Fair.
That's actually, so, this is, actually, that's a legitimate question in, like, multiverse-type stories. So the answer is that morality...
What's the answer again? Morality what?
Morality is morality everywhere.
Good.
And meaning that he is evil in whatever he's in. It doesn't change. As far as Evil Sean goes, I just wrote the net. So, since I brought up this topic, so I get to say since we're talking about this, but it was me who brought it up, so that's kind of cheating. But oh well. Anyway, since we're talking about this, I just wrote the next story in the Doppelganger saga. Sean has had a lot of story arcs this season, so the next story. No, he's also had the Revolutionary story arc. And this is going to go... This is going to spread out in 5, like, connected episodes. When all is said and done.
It's true.
So, anyway. Yeah, which means that 7 of Sean's episodes this season will be part of some arc, but whatever. Plus the finale episodes, which will also be in an arc.
But
But
that's the normal thing. In
yes, that
reality,
is.
Sean just has some stories that naturally flow like that,
Sure.
and will, you know.
Yep. It's really not a problem. I just noticed it. But anyway, so the next story that Sean has, Ben and I have been working hard on planning this out because we've had the idea since before the season for what's going to be coming up soon. But I have already written the next story. I got it done early because it was the sort of story that I like to write. So I was able to get it done really quickly. And this story is going to be interesting without spoiling what will happen in it. It is from the point of view of Sean's evil doppelganger. And what I really want to get across, hopefully, in this story is that he is still like he's still bound by morality, I guess is the word that I want to is the phrase that I want to use. You know, you can't run from God, right?
Yep.
And being Sean's doppelganger does not, you know, he's not a copy of Sean. And Sean isn't the copy of him. They are two distinct people who made different choices, and those choices have consequences. Escaping universes, going from one universe into another, doesn't erase those consequences. So that's, I guess, what I'm trying to explore here. So it'll be interesting. You'll see, I have plans for this. I think there's a good twist involving the doppelganger that I had a lot of fun writing. But I won't spoil it now. And we also have a Violet episode coming up eventually, which will be fun.
I'm writing that now.
Well, no, that's not the Violet. You're not writing the Violet episode. You're writing another. What was the name of the detective in Medusa?
Eugene Weller.
Eugene, thank you. So a Eugene episode, technically, but Violet will be in it. There is an episode from Violet's point of view that will be coming out eventually, but we don't know when. It's written.
It all depends on when I can get my actresses to get in line and record things.
Come on, Ken.
It's so hard during Christmas because actors don't work for the whole month of December. Most of them go home.
Yeah.
So they willingly leave for like colder places.
Say again?
They willingly leave sunny California for closer places.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Colder places, excuse me.
That's partly why I'm staying here. Actually, it's not. I would really rather go to a colder place.
Why would you want to go to somewhere colder?
Because I enjoy being cold. I don't like being hot.
Cold is of the devil.
Constantly in 30 and 40 degree weather, I find myself in shorts and t-shirts.
Ugh.
You must flex on the weaklings.
That's right. Anthony, your people come from a Mediterranean culture. My people are Arctic.
Right. I was doing security at Duke's last night, and basically somebody was like, "Aren't you cold?" And all I had on was like a hoodie and pants. And it's like, yeah, no, absolutely not. I'm wearing the hoodie just so my ears don't get cold, which is uncomfortable.
Look, while I grant that point, I will say that I am the only one of the three of us who's in a state that actually features all 4 seasons.
When I was in Oregon, I constantly had seasons.
True, when you were in Oregon, but now you're in California.
Okay.
Here are seasons limited to 2 weeks in the summer.
Okay. Anyway, point is, in a serious answer to the question, the existence of the multiverse will not erase any consequences, moral, soulful, or otherwise. While there will be some characters who show up, and they might even become main characters or something like that, they will not be the replacement. They will not be some sort of strange thing. They will be a real character with real lived experiences who happen to also be in this timeline, we'll say, in the main universe. Some of it will be, sometimes you just have a gag. There's a very, very funny gag that's going to show up. Other times it's going to be more serious, like what happens when you get a character back from another universe. Well, You know, what was his experiences? Why is he different? Why is he worth it? You know, what did he see? If he's from a doomed universe, which we've explicitly implied is the catalyst for people jumping universes.
Yes.
You know, how does this affect him? Does he even want to go home, or you know, what does he seek? You know, and it's like, how is he a different person than what he could have been? And how will it affect, you know, like, let's say he also jumps back in time 20 years to prevent it, a la Terminator rules. You know, like, how does that affect him? You know, he sees himself growing up. He sees himself older. So, you know, he's 0 when he comes in, and he's 40 when, you know, he's 20. Talking about the same person but different person. You know, there's stuff for it, but it's not going to be Marvel, oh, nothing matters, and we can return half the universe and nothing will go wrong. I kind of hate that. Like, can you imagine it? Like, you finally moved on with your life, and then some a-hole comes back from the dead and is like, that's my house. And it's like, dude,
So,
like, I've been living here 4 years. I'm raising a family. Like, you've been disintegrated.
all right. So here's sort of my thing with like Endgame and everything that followed it. The problem, I think that Endgame. That's one of the reasons I think that Endgame really, really should have just been the end. Because as soon as you start thinking over like the implications of what just happened in Endgame, it starts to fall apart really quickly. I think it's better to just say, and they all came back, the end, and then stop thinking about it.
Don't think about it.
Because there is no way to address it that isn't horrifying.
Accurate.
And they try, and I think they fail pretty badly. To be honest with you.
And they're like,
I mean, especially in WandaVision. Like, I think, honestly, the best thing to do with that story, and I am okay with the idea and concept, is to just say, and they all came back. The end. It's all good. We're done. Now stop talking. Now don't think about it. What were you going to say, Ben?
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. Well, more or less the same thing. Like, they have, like, oh, get your counseling for, you know, coming back from the dead. And it's like, but that doesn't fix, like, inheritance laws. Like, all these baby boomers lost their property. Oh, no.
It doesn't fix the fact that they are not going to have the resources for these people.
Yep.
Now, granted, if you really, really wanted to be thorough about it, which the MCU I don't think is capable of being, you could say that that was one of the things that Bruce snapped back in, that he made sure that, you know, he accounted for all of this stuff. You know, if you pop back up on a plane, you're actually on land in an open field, that he got food in place, that he set up supply lines. But they don't say any of that. They don't take the time to talk about any of that. And I think that's the right move for Endgame. You know, you don't need to. Nobody is going to question the fact they were all dead and now they're not. That's a good thing.
All he has to do is say, I have a very specific wish I am going to wish. You know, and he doesn't need to say what the wish is. You know, he could be like some sort of BS, like, listen, if I explain it to you, you're going to freak out. So I'm just going to have to say it by myself, you know, and everyone's just going to have to accept it.
Basically what Doctor Strange said at the end of Infinity War.
You know, something like that, basically. Like, it would be a nice echo. You know, so it's like, it's not that these sort of things, especially with, like, multiverses, with all these different consequences, and, like, the fear of a consequenceless multiverse. No, there's, you know, whatever these monkeys with typewriters think it is. The reality is that the second I have to uproot my life because some dude came back from the dead, I'm not going to be a happy camper.
Oh, the irony of you saying something like that around Christmas time.
Wow. Okay. It was 3 days. I mean, Jewish inheritance law does allow that the body is dead. after 3 days, but that's because they didn't have. Oh, fine, whatever.
Besides, if you take the traditional stance, Jesus wasn't dead 3 days. He was dead Friday, Saturday, and came back Sunday.
He was dead
Jewish
3
days.
days under Jewish.
He died the evening of Friday, came back evening of Saturday. I mean, even by the Jewish standard, that's why I hold to him dying on Thursday. It makes more sense.
No, there's the Jewish reckoning is that Jesus came back on Sunday.
Well, yes, I agree with Sunday, but he died on Thursday. That makes much more sense.
If he died before sundown, then he died on that day, then it's one day, then it's 2 days, and
Anthony,
he's back on the third day on Sunday.
No fighting over this. No fighting over this. I forgive it. I know how Protestants get over minor disagreements.
What the?
You think you Catholics have fights? You think the Orthodox have fights? You know nothing.
I think you need to share the meme that we just put up in chat.
Fine.
The memes, the Northern Ireland meme.
Yeah, I got it. We're never getting monetized anyway, so it's like might as well.
Yeah, of course not. Look at the picture you posted up as on the thumbnail.
We were never getting monetized on YouTube.
Fair.
It's true. Our best bet is to get monetized through unauthorized, actually.
Yes.
I'm throwing up. Well, I'll tell you guys what I'm putting up at the end of the stream. But it's going to be pretty cool.
Fantastic.
Sweet.
I do love things that are pretty cool.
So, I talked about my stories.
Yes.
Ken, what is Jim up to?
Oh, goodness. Well, let's see. I don't want to give away too much, but I'm definitely really excited for the Christmas episode, because it really is going to play with a lot of Jim's character arcs in ways that I haven't really explored yet until now. We're going to actually be introducing his parents, who most people probably thought were dead because I never talk about them. But they're going to make an appearance here, and then they're going to be somewhat more important in my mega episode that is hopefully going to be coming up right around the new year, maybe? Maybe a little bit after them.
Well, whenever it gets done.
In fact, the main point is I'm making this episode be my segue into the mega episode, because, okay, so the mega episode basically takes place after last season's finale. It pretty much happens immediately afterwards. But the events of it so scarred Jim that he has not wanted to write it down or talk about it or do anything with it. Even though I've alluded to it in several past episodes, including the fact that I've already established he meets Loki. So I've already identified for the rest of you who the main baddie of the big episode is. So it's going to be I think it's going to be really interesting. It's going to tie into not only the rest of Jim's season 2 arc, but also the rest of his character arc for the remainder of the series. You could say this is the beginning of the end of beginnings for Jim.
I hate that. I hate that so much. What? Never say that again. Never say that again to me.
I regret
that was
nothing.
Terrible. 0 of 10. May God have mercy on your soul.
Actually felt physical pain.
Thank God. That means I've done my duty.
You have left an oppression on this earth. You've caused your editor pain. This will surely not backfire in any way, shape, or form.
Speaking of leaving a mark on the earth, I got to play Santa Claus last night at a party.
Woohoo!
Actually, it's not true. I was Father Christmas. Santa Claus is a fat old dolt who sells Coca-Cola to children.
It's true.
Yes.
It's true. He
Father
wants kids
Christmas
fat because they're more easily turned into the Globo Homo regime.
Exactly. But Father Christmas, however, he exists as the lone wanderer to remind boys and girls, women and men of the birth of Christ. So what I did was I went around to each of the partygoers and I would take a candy cane out of my green satchel and I would hold it up to them and say, "In the name of the Son, I bless thee," and then I would walk away. Because the conversation would get awkward after then.
And then I'd leave to avoid answering questions.
Yes, exactly.
the Sigma male response. Enters, gives gift, claims that it's a reference to Christ, leaves.
Finally, I've done something Sigma.
What music do they use for that thing? I don't even know.
For
it's
what
some
thing?
sort of like with the Sigma memes. It's like some sort of
Were they
weird.
use music for it?
Yeah, there's
Didn't
this.
even
It's
know
like it's like Latin chanting with like a modern beat to it.
Ooh, I have no idea what this is. I'm really curious now.
Just look up Sigma memes.
I've never heard that before, but whatever. Who
I
cares?
like they show up. Like I watch a lot more meme content than you guys do.
That's true, because the idea of it bores me.
It's beautiful. It's glorious. It is the language of our tortured times. I
Yeah.
want a deep fried, multiple distortioned image of Thomas the Tank Engine running over a Catholic where it says the Reformation train has no brakes, with Martin Luther pole dancing on the back for no reason. I don't know. This got away from me and it got too big of a scope. But we're in it.
Which is also what Martin Luther said at the end.
Probably. I wouldn't be surprised. The point is that this is exactly the
Sounds
Protestant experience. Things getting too big and going too hard too fast. Don't you dare,
It
Ken.
beats the Orthodox.
Don't you dare.
It's just too easy.
I know it's too easy,
Yeah,
so you can't
right?
do it. That's why I said
I'm going
it.
to say it
I
beats the Orthodox
postmodernly reference to
experience.
it.
The Orthodox experience is you don't do anything, you shrink for centuries, and then you argue with each other in schism.
Also, Jesus has no sense of humor. Laughter's the devil.
That's actually a thing too.
I know, it's terrible. That's why I'll never be Orthodox.
I'm being mean to the Orthodox when I actually have nothing really against the Orthodox. They're
I have against them the fact that they don't laugh. That's terrible.
I suppose. They're generally good people, though, but
They've become kind of a meme cult, honestly.
they have. Carl Gabler says, I'm not drunk enough for this. Would you believe that not one of us is drunk right now? This is us sober.
To be fair, I do have a glass of scotch,
down.
but it is not fully downed yet.
Welcome down the rabbit hole, my friend.
We're sober. We've always been sober. That's the secret. That's
Yeah.
our power.
You want
That's
to
how I
know
do
what it is? We're always angry, and then we hulk out.
Yes.
So, anyway, the moral of the story is there really isn't a moral. This was going nowhere from the beginning.
Well, the moral of the story is Jim's got a really exciting arc coming up, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. Yeah.
Beautiful.
I know. I can't wait either. It's sounding pretty good every time you talk to me about it.
Fantastic.
Paul says for you, one glass is just getting started. That's true. Well, look,
right.
Ken might be drunk, and if he is, we forgive him. But Ben and I are stone cold sober.
I haven't had... What?
I'm nowhere near
randomly.
drunk. It's only it's not even 5 p.m. here on the coast. I've barely started.
Yeah, but it's past noon. You're good. You golden.
That's a good point.
Bradford Walker says the only online orthobro I can respect these days is Roosh, and that's because he eschews stupid online debate BS.
Yep.
I respect Roosh because he threw down all of his evil works, cast them aside, and claimed faith in Christ Jesus. And
Yeah, I'm
anybody
really impressed
who
with
does
that.
I respect.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
agree.
He's like one of the few guys I've seen converted from the NRX pickup artist, whatever you want to call them, community. That's like, yeah, no. Like if he threw his works into the sea, like I don't know like how to say other than he has repented of his actions.
Right.
Like it's hard.
It's inspirational.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, Roosh is a genuinely unbelievable story. Like he not only converted and he came out and he said what was of the devil.
Yeah.
And it was wrong and it was evil, and you know what? God bless him for that.
Right.
Absolutely.
Like you're like repudiating your own life's work, and it was just a bunch of sex guides. Like there are people who would just like be like, yeah, that was the past and whatever, you know. If you still want him, you still want him. I kept him up, you know. But it's like no, he like actually had a huge monetary cost because that I was, you know, I was working security and I was talking to some dude and he mentioned that he had read Roosh's pickup guides, and
Hmm.
he still reads them, and he was using them
Oh.
at the bar I was in. Now, of
Oh,
course,
no.
I didn't care,
Right.
because everyone's here to be debauched, so might as well. Might as well just keep it going. But it's weird because it's like in reality, if someone was being assaulted, that's different. But it's like, yeah, sure, if you're stupid enough to be convinced by some greased up, slick haired, whatever, you're just stupid. You came here for it. You don't come here unless you want it.
That's right.
But he talked about it, and I was actually able to share the gospel with him and sort of tell him that, yeah, Roosh did this because, he's a different man than he was before.
Sure.
Like I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like it is the closest thing I've seen to a salvation changed in any of these guys.
That's very true. I mean, Milo also is really big, and I loved it when Milo and Roosh talk to each other. But even still, like Roosh's entire personality changed.
Yep.
Whereas Milo, his just quote unquote just his sexuality changed.
And even then, it's very much like he was always quote unquote saved. In other words, he did not believe he needed salvation. He
Right.
needed to fix his morality.
Sure.
Or, get over the trauma of being touched by a priest.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's, it's that sort of thing to it. Like, it's a different implication. Like, if I were to give up some sort of sin, I don't know, jaywalking, let's say. And but, like, I wouldn't say I wasn't saved before I stopped jaywalking. I would say that I have, in recognition of my Christian life, now will no longer jaywalk. Not that jaywalking is a sin, but
Well, yes.
it's just
It's
that
only a
the
sin
fine
when you're
succeeds.
slowly jaywalking.
Yes, it is, but that's because you caused wrath in another man.
Yes, exactly.
Now, is it funny? Yes, it's kind of funny, but you
I would
the
run
risk.
over you.
Yes, exactly. That's fine. That would be perfectly acceptable. Just even like no judge in the world would throw you in jail for that.
He'd probably even just say, "Well, Mr. Dickinson, we sure do appreciate you doing the society a favor."
Exactly. He gets it.
Yeah, exactly.
Wish I understood what made that scarecrow come alive. Because
Speaking
randomly
of-
it does. Was that?
Speaking of scarecrows that have come alive, Ben, what is happening with Jack in the future? As we've talked, Sean and Jim.
First off,
Yes.
sir, he was a mannequin. Anyway, mannequin given sentience once a year by the Blue Fairy.
There you go. Why not?
So I keep forgetting there's monsters in a certain area. So the thing with Jack is he's still, shall we say, dealing with the descent of his mother into hell. I don't say death. I mean literally descended into hell.
Right.
And he doesn't know how to deal with it, so he's just going on missions. But I'm going to start introducing some more stuff to it about it later. Especially in the finale, especially in the climax to post-climax to Dark Water. Where he's hunting down some mermaid traffickers.
Ooh.
And he, has a fight with them. It's pretty nice. Yeah, that's it. There's some more stuff to it, but I won't spoil it. The point is it gets them to thinking. It also lets them have a lead to a Grand Mason hideout, which shall be important much later. But the best part about this season is that I arranged them in reverse order of what I wanted to do.
Ooh.
So, in the end, it's like, the next one's going to be a Jim and Jack episode, which is kind of cool. After Dark Water, then it's Bar House Brawl, which I cannot remember what it is about. Same with Mob's Murder of Crows, which is probably about somebody who controls crows. The real big one, though, is Mall Rat and Grudges, where I will bring back the Puppeteer and Grigory Horvath for
Nice.
a third and second round, respectively.
The Puppeteer is my favorite of your villains thus far. Now, I will say Mordred is my favorite of your characters, but he's also not original. But the Puppeteer is my favorite of your original villains.
Oh, absolutely. And Jack's gonna come in prepared. Like for right now, it's basically them having grudge matches against each other. At one point, they're gonna show up he's gonna show up at least once a season. It's gonna be pretty good.
Do you have any plans for his ultimate defeat, or is this something that you are going to lure us into, leave utterly unanswered until it finally happens?
I don't have any news of his final defeat, or even how it would work. Jack will figure out something violent. I know the Puppeteer will be caught by the Security Commission at some point. And Jack will also discover it's caught by the Security Commission, which will lead to no end of hilarity on Jack's part. Everyone else.
Will Jim and Sean have to break him out?
No. It's one of those things where it's like, no, he's Jack Morrow. He's good. He's gonna be. There's a certain amount of. He's just gonna be fine. It's like, congratulations, you let Jack Morrow into the vents. I didn't think he could. It's like, yeah, he's he's like 6'6" or something, but thin. He can dislocate his own shoulders. Like it's one of those things. Like, congratulations, you blinked. He deserves to be on the other side of the glass.
As someone who can dislocate his own shoulders, I gotta say it's wildly overrated in terms of long-term sneaking around.
Oh, sure, but it's like it's not gonna be like a comedic episode or a particularly horror episode, but
Sure.
it's gonna be one of those kind of like adventure ones where it's like he's gonna listen to people panicking about him trying to kill this thing, which they are trying not to kill because they want to figure out how it works, or who made it, that sort of thing.
Sure.
I think I might include a Orsanto episode somewhere in here for this season, just because we haven't really had one, or at least not a big one. I'm also the one writing Cold Blooded, which is going to be a Eugene Weller Wendigo story where he's protecting Violet during the current story arc.
I will say this is very funny for our patrons and people watching, because Violet and Eugene Weller, the actors who play them both, know each other and are friends in real life, and neither of them knows that the other person is playing it. So I'm really, really excited, as the person who has recorded both of them, to get them both in my suit at the same time, only for them to be surprised at seeing each other there.
That is pretty cool.
And it's going to be my little secret to spring on them, because they never listen to these episodes.
All right.
Yeah, that does raise the point, though, that episode's coming soon, so you need to get your actor in the studio. Cough, cough.
I mean, I've told you, it's very difficult to get actors to do anything during December. So
I know.
January 4th rolls around, I'll make it happen.
Light that fire underneath them. But
Also,
whatever. I believe in you. We trust you.
Allow torture.
Well, you don't need to allow it. I just do it.
Oh, good. I mean, I'm just saying.
Oh, that's good, because we were just assuming, so it's a good thing you said that.
Of course. My goodness, do you think people that come into my sound closet actually leave happy? No. I turn the lights out on them and let all manner of horror afflict them.
Listen, all you have to do to be let out is finish the episode. Please, I have a family. Just finish the episode. And
They're
you
waiting
can go
for
back
you.
to opening your Christmas presents.
All right, I get it. And then you read it. I don't know. You misspoke at 10:52. I think we're going to have to record.
That's right. Hey, I'm sorry. You're crying throughout the entire episode.
You can't use this.
That's right. The audio is utterly useless.
You're going to have to do it again. And then you flick on the taser for a few seconds.
No. Tasers are far too crass. And they leave marks. Batteries in a sock. Now that's where you do it.
Sure, but like, the electricity is the thing. Let's see here. So here's a funny meme that just showed up.
Oh, wonderful.
Director. Okay, so it's a Muppets Christmas Carol, but with Muppets. So, feel free to have a little fun with it. Be a little silly. Michael Caine. I am going to play this entire thing as seriously as a car accident.
Oh, I love
And
that.
he does, too.
He does. It was great. Last night during the same party that I was Santa Claus, we had a guy do an absolutely magnificent Scrooge post-conversion.
Ah. So he brought a Christmas goose?
He did not bring a Christmas goose because we already had loads of food. That would have been fantastic. But he's also an actor, so anytime an actor will actually willingly come out of hiding and admit to some sort of conversion, it's a true miracle.
It is. It is.
And actually, I'm really excited working with this guy because he does a lot of animation, and he just opened his studio, and I'm hoping that
Is it Brainy Pixel?
Is it what? No.
Is it Brainy? Okay, good. Okay.
No. Different guy entirely.
Okay.
All right. So, are you trying to tell us that you could get the Pinkerton's Ghost animated show made?
Actually, yes, possible. I kind of wanted to sit on this lead for a little while, but it is possible. The problem is we would need to do some pretty major fundraising to talk to this guy and because this isn't just some guy that will half-assedly do an animation for us. He would actually get himself and any other artists he could get working with him to make an actual show.
Together.
Say what?
He would get a team together, and it would be like a real show. So we're talking like full, 11 to 20-minute episodes, depending, right?
Right. So we would have to be.
We don't even have comics yet, so guys.
Yeah.
It's one of those things.
How much money, Ken?
Wow.
I'd say we could get an episode done for $5,000.
Yeah. What? No,
Actually,
what?
that's not as bad as I was expecting to hear.
I know, right? I think it could actually work.
Those numbers don't add up at all. Like, it takes $4,000 just to get a good comic.
Yes, but see, the point is, when you're dealing with a studio that is very, very eager and excited to build its to get out there, then you have a better chance of it being a little bit less expensive.
I mean, sure, but anyway.
Besides,
we haven't
get
even
our
decided anything. Hold on, yeah, sure. But we haven't even decided anything about that, and this is literally the first time I've heard anything. And rather than leaving sound files for things that may or may not happen or exist in 5 minutes' time, or after the collapse of the United States, inshallah, it'll take a bit of time. But that's neither here nor there.
Let's just say it's a little teaser of the possibilities that could be the future.
Possibilities. Let me illuminate the possibilities.
No, Alibaba had them 40 thieves. No.
Stretches out 1,000 tales.
Thanks, guys, and you're complaining at me about this stuff.
Well, we've right now.
About you about this stuff. We complain about you about very different things.
Disney's made a copyright claim on this video.
Congratulations, you hummed 3 bars of Hey Jude.
There would never be a chance in hell I'd sing a Beatles song.
That's true. That's true. John Lennon deserved what he got.
Well, I mean, that's pretty
Yoko
pretty nice.
Ono.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, you're right there. Yeah.
That was pretty good.
That was one of your best jokes, actually, Ben. I'm really impressed.
I'd give that joke
That joke a what?
a 9.
Thank you.
Ooh.
You get a 9 out of 10 for that one.
Good job. Yeah, thank you.
I'm really curious to see what your rating would be for a 10 joke. I want to know that someday.
I haven't heard one yet. When I do, I'll let you know.
Fair enough.
I've been playing this game at 640, 480. Why?
I don't know what that is.
Resolution.
Oh, why would you do that?
I don't know. I didn't know it was a thing.
Ben, I thought you were the computer guy of the three of us.
I know, that's why I checked it.
Wow.
And I'm like, this doesn't feel right.
So what you're telling me is this game actually isn't supposed to look like trash?
It's a fantastic game, Ken.
That
And
looks like trash.
It doesn't. It is retro. It is retro, sir.
Yes, there's a
Sir.
reason I don't play retro games anymore.
Oh,
There's
that's
retro
terrible.
and then what?
You should be playing retro games. They're the only games worth playing.
Yeah,
It's
basically.
not true.
Them and Supergiant games.
I mean, there's all the massive. Like, okay. I'll ask a different question. How far back do you consider retro? Are we talking early 2010s, 2000s?
I'm gonna go. Yeah, that's true. I was gonna go 5 years. That seems too soon. You
Sure.
probably should give at least a decade for retro.
Okay, I'll give you that. This is more closer to Dune though, so that's almost 25 years.
Yes.
Maybe in
Yeah.
30.
I suppose. Yeah, that's legit retro. I guess
Yes.
I would say like a decade's like retro, and even then, it's sometimes hard to think of those games as retro. Like, for example, Portal 2 is now over 10 years old.
To what?
That's incredible to me. But that's
Yeah.
true because it happened when I was here in Los Angeles.
2011.
Yeah. That was right. I know exactly where I was at that time. I was in Glendale, praying I wasn't going to be one of the people that got shot.
Yikes.
There were 3 murders in my neighborhood during the year I lived there.
Wow.
That's
My very-
almost as many as Ben gets in a week.
It's true.
It actually is. But it's still a tragedy every time it happens, even if the people might deserve it.
Well, this is true. I think they were gang members. I'm pretty sure they were a few of them were MS-13.
Wow.
We actually had MS-13 tag my building a couple times.
That's pretty wild.
Indeed. That's why I live in a much safer city now.
So,
Well, used to be.
I'm going to swing randomly back to Pinkerton's Ghost just because this is theoretically a Pinkerton's Ghost live stream.
We'll answer
Yeah,
as many questions
according
as they give us.
We
What else,
haven't
man?
got any questions, Ben. You have to
Anyway.
create our own questions.
Anyway,
So-
Anthony, what was your thing?
What I was going to say is, what are, just as a general question, what are your projects for the future with these characters beyond the season? Like, do you have a direction that you're going?
Ooh.
Yes. So
Because I do, and I know that Ben probably does, because he generally does. Ken, I don't know as much about what you're doing with Jim, and I think that Ben has told me that you're more, episode to episode with Jim than me and Ben tend to be.
I
Which
have
is-
some overarching ideas that I want to make happen, but I don't have too many in the way of overarching plot. I have overarching plot threads, but I don't necessarily have quite the degree of planning you and Ben do yet. I'm still too young of an author for that.
I have less planning than might be expected.
Fair.
I have an idea of what I'm going to end up doing with Sean, but I don't have the details necessarily planned out. So
Yes, that's where I'm at with Jim.
in terms of the really long-term story, season 3, I have big plans with Sean, and
Okay.
I absolutely can't say what they are because that would be major spoilers. But stuff is going to happen to Sean, and he's going to undergo some changes, and things are going to go down that really change his status quo.
Going to
Which is great, but that's not going to come until season. Though I am going to start laying the groundwork soon. To be honest, I haven't really started laying the groundwork yet, but I have time. I have like 8 episodes left. So, there's plenty of time to do it, but I'm going to start laying the groundwork by the end of season 2, and then in season 3, things are going to happen that really change status quo, and that's going to be a lot of fun. Not for him, though.
well, yes.
He's
Changing
not
the
gonna
status quo is always bad for the person
Yes.
being changed.
We'll have fun, though, and I'll certainly have fun with it.
Oh, absolutely. And since you'll
I
finally be living up my advice of torturing your character, I'm going to be very excited. Because I've
Well-
been torturing Jim since day one.
Yeah, the thing about Sean is I always saw Sean as a slightly different type of character. We had this discussion the other day.
Oh,
So
yes.
whatever you think of it. So the good news is he is getting a character arc and he is going to suffer. So whatever you think that's going to happen. But with that said, I conceived of Sean initially as a more static character. That's going to change, but he's the sort of person that you could just send on adventures week after week and it makes sense and he could have these adventures. But that is changing, and it's going to change in a big way.
Okay.
And he's really going to, undergo some stuff. And to be honest, he's undergone more character development than I originally intended on him doing. Like, Violet was not originally a part of character. I have my initial character sheet for Sean. In fact, I think I have it pulled up in the background. Yeah, the original character sheet for Sean is very short. It's like a dozen bullet points. And it's a little bit on his backstory. Violet is not in here. Old Tom is not in here.
True. I remember you talking about.
Both of those were added after the fact to Sean. And Violet I only conceived of in the middle of the season, and then I decided I wanted to make her a major part of Sean's story, mostly because love interests just tend not to be added to stories like this, and I thought it would be interesting. And I am also a big fan of romance as flavor.
Sure.
I think it does a lot for stories. Like, great example of this, actually, where the romance is not the main point of Star Wars, but it adds a ton to the story.
Fine with romance is a story plot as long as it's immediately followed by deep, heart-rending tragedy.
I think that romance is great. I'm not a fan of romances, like the plot, since, romances, I guess, in the modern sense, right? Love stories.
Right. Yeah, you're not a woman.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Like, seriously, legitimately. I'm not
even being Italian, though.
That's a good point.
I am, but I'm not even being sarcastic here. Like, I'm not a woman, so love stories are not something that I am a fan of on their own normally, but love stories as part of a larger story, I think, are great. They add a lot of flavor. And that's one of the reasons I decided to give Violet to Sean, right? And I also have been trying to have her grow and become a more regular character in the cast. I do have plans with Violet as well for both short and long term, and where their relationship will go should be fun. But yeah, so in terms of the long term story for Sean, he's going to undergo a lot of change and a lot of suffering. Ben, what do you have with Jack?
So Jack is sort of going on a, shall we say, discovery of ego trip. Not an ego trip, but like in the sense of, I am a person and I have needs and desires and so on and so forth. I just discovered a secret level. Fantastic.
Congratulations.
All right. So, weird. Anyway. All right. So, basically, at the end of season 2, he's basically going to, like, all these different things that he has been leaving to the side, like himself, his desires, what he needs, are going to come to the forefront, and he's going to say, I need to be a person with will in this. And so even though he's not, quote-unquote, the main focus of season 3 or 4, he's going to be working in the background, both to support the other two Pinkertons and make sure that there are other Pinkertons running around, but also making sure that his needs for revenge and putting down his evil, wicked father and, sort of preserving the family are met. Part of this, isn't, it's hard to explain a philosophical concept like self-actualization, but basically he's not going to be as skulking in the background as he is when people aren't looking at him. He's going to be much more active. Like, part of the reason why people were just fine with him is that he never left the Ozarks unless he was on a mission, and they knew about the missions, so, you don't need to put a man on him to track him, because he's a creature of extreme habit. So it'll kind of work out. I'm gonna have the goal is in general is to expand out the Morrow family. I've implied that his grandmother is unaccounted for, and his grandfather and great grandfather are dead, which is an important distinction in this story. So it's like he's going to see what he can do. By season 3, I should have Wild Hunt All Stars out, as well as Children's Hospital. So that'll, like, it won't make his character static, but it'll make sure that the end result of his character arcs more or less go the way I need them to go. Especially for a character as simple yet complex as Jack. It's one of those things where you just have to go through with it. Get these things down right. But I enjoy the character. I enjoy where I'm taking him, and it's not going too far left or right from the plan I originally had.
That's fantastic and rare. Because usually the best laid plans of mice and men oft go astray.
We've mentioned this on this live stream before, but one thing that I at least always found important and I wanted to make sure that we did is make sure that we had an idea of how the story would end.
Yeah.
Like, overall Pinkerton's story. Right. This is something that I have always considered, and we have 5 seasons. Like, we're pulling for 5 seasons, right?
Yeah. Right.
That's the plan currently. Yeah. So
certainly this is like Jack, anyway.
Mm-hmm. Right. This is my big pet peeve with like modern comics and whatever, that they don't end. And one of the reasons I think that manga generally is superior, that I don't think enough people talk about, is the fact that One Piece might have been going for a bazillion years and 1,000 issues now, or 1,000 chapters now. But One Piece is going. It has a destination, and it is making progress towards it.
Sure.
We're doing that too. Yep. So I will say this, like, stuff that's going on with Sean right now, the doppelgangers, the security commission as a plot device, the time travel with the Heart of Kronos, the multiverse, all of this is intended to come into play later. And in some cases, much, much later. Like, we're not just talking stuff that's going to come up, we bring it up now and then it comes up later this season, though that is going to happen too, with several elements. But we're talking about stuff that's going to be brought up now that will be brought back 3 seasons later.
Yep.
Right.
And I think that it's very important that we do this work now.
Yep.
And we do have an idea of where the story is going, and even of how season 5 will very roughly, by the way, very roughly look. We did have the season 2 planning meeting, and so far the season, I think, has gotten it hasn't gone exactly according to the meeting. For example, some of Sean's stories are expanded into multiple parters when they originally weren't. Some stuff I just didn't really have the inspiration for, and then I came up with another idea and I went with that instead. And since it was just, it was a one-off case and not an arc case or, a lore case, that wasn't that big of a deal, and we were just able to roll with it. Molly Maguire's was a good example of that. Although, actually, Molly Maguire's does fit one of the stories that we had in the pre-planning meeting, which was a ghost story. But whatever, the point being that we can do that with certain stories, right?
Yes.
Have an idea of what we're doing, but then if we come up with a better idea, we could pivot to that, and it's not really a big deal because they're not arc stories.
Yeah.
And a couple of Sean's doppelganger stories spread out into a couple of episodes when I originally thought it was just like going to be one, or it wasn't going to be one right after the other, which again is fine. We intend to remain at least somewhat flexible. But the general goal, like the general direction of Sean's arc has not changed.
Yep. And
I don't intend to change it. Like, I think it would be a mistake if I did change it, because I think that you need to have that plan in place. You need to make it look, and hopefully listeners and readers, whatever you want to call them, they see what you're doing and they appreciate that.
Yep.
That's cool. I know that I do in stories. I'm always a lot more impressed if I can see the pieces being put into place, and I think if they just pulled it out their ass. And we do have pieces being moved into And I am hopeful that what we do in season 5 is going to be genuinely cool when we get there. And I think it will be. As far as this season and where this season is going, I have been excited since we came up with the idea of where this is going to go. It's going to be really cool and really dramatic. And if we do it well, in theory, very moving.
Yep.
The hope.
The hope. And I think it will. I think it definitely will. The amount of work and thought I've put into this has been a lot.
Yeah, the goal is I genuinely want the listener, and it's going to be centered more around Jack than, like my characters or whatever, but I genuinely hope that the listener listens to it and, like, comes out of it actually being moved by the story. And I hope that they are, because we're really, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Well, considering some of the direction I've been seeing, Ben take his story, I'd be very surprised if they weren't at least, enjoying it, if not moved.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, like it's going to be enjoyable. Like it's not one of those things. It's like, wow, this is going to be the best thing ever. Something.
No.
Thanos snap something. No, it's
Right.
going to be very.
Maybe it will be.
Sure.
Don't say that yet.
Don't. Traitor. But it's going to be more about how things, have worked together and like keeping the horror aspect, keeping the adventure aspect, making sure all the pieces work together, not just some sort of, oh, Pinkerton's ghosts, oh, cheap horror sellout, something, and then we flinch at the very end. No, this is going to be very specific, very well created, with a lot of work put into it. We haven't had to delay any episodes, really. But, if we have to say, all right, guys, we need another week to make sure this ending works out right, or another 2 weeks or something, guess what? That's going to be on the table, just because if that's necessary to progress to the quality to which my readers and listeners have been accustomed to, then that's the quality they're going to get.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeet.
I think, I was excited. So what we're going to do at the end of the season, I was excited about it ever since Ben originally came up with the idea.
Yeah.
Because the sort of story that he's going to do is a type that I am personally a big fan of. And I'm being very vague about it because I genuinely hope that it's a surprise to people.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think it will be. And of course, we do only have one listener. Hello, one listener. It might be me.
Honestly, yeah, it was just us for a very long time.
But this is going to be put out and recorded, so hey.
This is true.
For whoever sees this. I think that this season should end on a really powerful note if we execute, the ideas properly. As far as season 3 goes, season 3 is... Bradford's still here.
Yay!
Thanks, buddy.
Excellent.
Season 3 is going to be more Sean-focused, though I think we do need, when we have our meeting for season 3, we need to sit and decide on a proper climax to season 3.
Sure.
But we have a little bit of time before that. There are other ideas that I want to do as well that I have not talked about with you, but I have talked about with Ben.
Ooh.
For example, I think that within the next few months, we should give serious consideration to planning and writing a Pinkerton's Ghost novel. Between
that would be very interesting. Would it be set in our current timeline or elsewhere?
I would think in our current timeline, but we could always do alternate. Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
We've now identified that there are alternate universes, so...
I wouldn't even go that far. Like, seriously, I'm a big fan of, like, the flying and stuff. I'm a big fan of that sort of idea. I would just do, if I didn't want it to be canon, I wouldn't play with it at all. I would just go, this is a non-canon story, and then trust that our readers aren't idiots.
Right. Yeah, our readers are pretty smart, but, the guys who come after them, the next level fans, I don't know. I don't know how
Yeah.
smart they
Like,
are.
so what is this story? How does it fit? It's just it's a non. Yeah. It is a non-canon story. Just accept it. Just accept it.
Please stop asking so many questions. This is a social situation. I feel awkward.
These are not the droids you're looking for.
I've used that to get out of things. It's like, sir, this is a social situation. I don't like it.
Vanessa Vasquez, who I
Hopefully
don't
it does.
recognize, but hello, thank you for joining. Says, love the episodes, can't wait for the season finale now. Thank you for saying.
Fantastic.
We're about halfway
And
there.
our friend Woolis says, I would look forward to a novel. Yeah, I think the novel would be cool. There are various ideas that we could do, and I'm not saying it wouldn't be canon either. Maybe it would be canon and take place in between stories. I'm just not wed to the idea. Like, if we need to make it non-canon to make it work, I wouldn't. If it were me, obviously Ben is the guy in charge and he's the editor, so he decides.
Right.
But if it were me, I wouldn't sweat it. If we had to make it non-canon, if we sat down, tried to work out the timeline, said this doesn't work, I would just shrug and go, all right, it's a non-canon, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And of course,
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
And it's like like if there's a question of canon, always default to the radio show. Like that's just the rule. Like if something contradicts it, if whatever, in reality it's supposed to be according to the radio show.
Canon is a tricky thing too, because I think that there's people simultaneously don't care enough and care too much about canon, where they don't care enough in the sense that they don't take continuity into account, which I think is a mistake, but they care too much in which they start nitpicking contradictions to the point where, and then they start getting tied up in their own timeline to the point where they can't really tell stories anymore.
Right.
Or their shipping timeline.
Oh,
yeah.
gosh.
Gundam kind of has this issue, which is why some well-received and best Gundam stories are ones that are basically disconnected from the main story. Yeah.
I was gonna say right now, we don't have any official shipping for any of the Pinkerton's ghosts, so those of you that are doing fan art,
if you do ship Sean with any of the characters, I'm just saying that unofficially, both Jim and Jack are single.
Ew.
Gross.
I would post that fan art on our Twitter.
I've got a very sharp sword in my hands currently. I'm considering Harry Carey.
Same.
No,
I'm really excited. I got the short
Sean has a girlfriend.
Say what?
Sean has a girlfriend. This doesn't make sense.
Well, eventually Jim's going to have a girlfriend.
And Jack's gonna have a girlfriend.
Oh, is this?
That is.
Oh, yes, it is. That's right.
But you didn't spoil the really fun part of Jim's girlfriend.
Oh no! I can't wait for that part to be revealed.
Because I know what's going to happen there, and I'm excited for it.
The only thing that could.
This is true. Which, if you've been paying attention to Jim, it should be pretty obvious.
It should. Jack's girlfriend, I am also, and eventual, possibly more, depending on what happens in his story. I am very much looking forward to meeting.
I cannot wait for him to introduce her, because she's going to be fantastic.
So here's the thing with Sean. There's a very intentional thing that goes all the way back to the creation of the character, where Sean was designed specifically to be and that was like part of the point, right? That also that made him an underdog, and making him an underdog is part of the fun.
Right.
Yeah. And the fact that he's the normal one means he also gets a relatively normal girlfriend.
Right.
Violet has some spunk, and Violet, is a bit of an archaeology buff, and she is intelligent, but she is ultimately, she's not really weird, right? Like, she could see through the ultra tear, but the way that most Irish can, in both the real world and in the Pinkerton world. She's not, she doesn't have a dark backstory. She doesn't have special training. She's a college student who's overseas in America. And sure, she has a little bit of spunk to her, and she's certainly not incompetent, and she's smart enough, but she's not unusual. Sean, too, is somebody who wasn't going to be a Pinkerton originally. He got kind of thrust into this world, and he's getting better and better at it. But ultimately, he didn't grow up in this life, like the Bane speech in The Dark Knight, right? Like, I was born in the darkness, you were adopted by it, whatever. Same idea, right? That was Sean. And that's kind of the point. It makes him an underdog in this world. Now, Jack, though, Jack uh, is a very different character.
What? No. Jack is the most normal of all of us.
He is pretty normal. Healthy fixation of
normal.
guns, fear of social situations.
Great relationship with his mother.
He is relatable. Jim is an interesting one. Because the way that I conceive of the three characters is that Jack is this crazy wild combat man, and Jim is somebody who is almost like he's a typical Pinkerton kind of, or at least that's how he comes off to other people. But the more you look into him, the more you realize that Jim is actually kind of a scary person.
Jim is Ken. There's never been any moment of me hiding that he is literally just an author insert. You can take that as you will.
I don't consider Sean an author insert, but I do say that I write him the way that I talk, just for ease of writing.
Sure.
Like, it's if I'm going to be writing him every single week, or every 3 weeks, and I need to keep doing it over and over, it's easier not to have to think about creating the Sean voice, just write how I talk. But I don't consider Sean me. Like, his backstory, personality, background, like, he is not me. Jim, I do see you in Jim in some ways. I think the way that I always conceive the three is that Jim just looks like a typical Pinkerton, but the more you look into him and the more you look into what he's done, Jim's actually kind of terrifying and is low-key the most dangerous of the three of us.
Aw, thanks.
I think that that's the most interesting direction to take the character anyway. And I think that and I think you've done a good job getting.
Appreciate that. Thank you. It's also been entertaining being the least experienced of the three authors, but the most experienced of the voiceover actors to play with the dynamics there.
Now, in terms of what a novel would be about, there are various ideas. Literally, this literally can't be a spoiler because this is the first time we've ever discussed this together. So what you're hearing here for viewers at home, this is the pitch meeting. Right. But one of the ideas that we've discussed doing in the past was like the Jim Gets Framed story. Jim gets framed for like killing Control or something, and Control goes missing or whatever, and he has to go on the run from Jack, who goes after him, and like Sean helps him out. That's an idea that we could do. Sure. I think that we should definitely do something like it one day.
That would be a very interesting topic for a novel, actually.
I don't know if it should be the first novel or not, but it would certainly. And you could have fun with all three characters. It would be like Jack versus Jim, and then Sean maybe starts off on Jack's side, then he like looks into it and he realizes something is fishy, right. And he joins up with Jim.
Right.
But
Jack would be the easiest person for Jim to avoid because, Jim almost certainly has all manner of physical artifacts from all of the Pinkertons, so he can pretty much keep track on all you guys whenever he needs to.
Sure, but Jack would know that.
He just shaves his head bald. He would do it in a second.
Yes, but would you shave all the rest? What if there's just that one little pinky hair that's still just cropped up?
Jack would do what it takes. He'd wax his whole body.
That would be really entertaining if you described that in the story sometime.
Jack joins up an Indian tribe, and he's hunting him in full Indian dress.
Yes.
Actually, I could 100% see Jack doing that too.
Oh, absolutely.
And I imagine that Sean goes missing or something, and they think that Jim killed her, sure. And now Jack is tasked by whoever the replacement is, who is probably going to be the villain. Again, I'm literally making this up right now as I speak.
Right.
So it's not a spoiler. So none of this is a spoiler.
Right.
But anyway, he would probably be the villain, and then they hire Jack to go after Jim. And what would happen after that is what would happen after that is that Sean would probably look into it, and then he would thing was up, and
Right.
he would agree to help Jim, and then it would be like Sean and Jim versus Jack for a while. First, Jack and Sean versus Jim, then Sean and Jim versus Jack, and then they team up against the main threat.
Right.
And Jack would absolutely dress up in Indian garb if it hid his quote-unquote scent from the spirits of the tracking and the hunting forest.
Sure.
But yeah, that could be one way to go with it. There are, of course, lots and lots and lots of ideas that you could do.
Oh yeah.
That was one that we came up with a while ago, just in passing. I, of course, will be working on a novel. So we're getting near the end of the live stream, so we'll go outside of Pinkerton's Ghost. I am currently working on an adaptation of Orpheus and Eurydice myth. It is the way that it differentiates itself from other famous adaptations is that my version is going to be a Christianization in the lines of C.S. Lewis's Till We Have Faces adaptation of Cupid's Psyche, and John C. Wright's Christianization of the Antigone story in The Cry of the Nighthound. And I've had this idea for a long time. I've been wrestling with it for years, actually. Those who have been longtime fans of the channel might remember the stream we had a year ago where we invited John C. Wright on to discuss how we would Christianize the Orpheus myth. And at the time, I was not able to come to what I considered a satisfactory conclusion to it, but since then, I have.
Oh, fantastic. I didn't even hear that.
Yeah, I figured out what I want to do. Yeah, like I know where I'm going with it. So that's what I'm working on. But in the middle of that, I'm also going to be plotting in detail a Pinkerton's Ghost universe novel that will not star Sean. It will actually star a character who appeared briefly in the story Party Crashers, which was Sean's final solo episode, non-team up, I guess, episode of season 1, where about the character of Nick, who lives in the city of Shipton, and how he takes on blood money and how that conflict grows to involve Morgana and gang warfare, and Nick needs to, go up against this mind controlling villain when he has powers of his own.
Right.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. That's again an idea that I have actually had for many years. And I was very excited to bring Blood Money and Shipton into the Pinkerton's Ghost universe because they were something I came up with on my own long before Pinkerton's Ghosts existed, and I was able to fit them in pretty neatly, I think. They fit in the world quite well.
Oh,
so having Nick, finally bringing Nick into the world, because Nick was a character I had in mind for a while, and Blood Money and Shipton and all of that. Even Celia. Briefly, Celia was a character who was originally in my original outline of the story, and she appears briefly, very briefly, at the end of Party Crashers. She would become a main character in this story, in the Nick versus Blood Money story, but it would be separate from the Pinkerton's Ghosts. It would the only character who might show up is Sean briefly as a cameo, and even then, he would not be the focus of it. It would be Nick and Blood Money, and the idea is that it's a Death Note style thriller. The idea is sort of like one of the things that I liked about Death Note was that cat and mouse back and forth, that one person made a move, the other person made a move, call and response type thing. I want it to be the same idea. Blood Money has powers that work under a certain rule set. So under these constraints, how does Nick make headway? Right? Like, what can he do to push back against this overwhelming power that is opposed to him when he doesn't even necessarily know all of the rules yet? How do you figure out the rules? How do you push back against the rules? What maneuvers can you do? How do you fight it? Right? So that's going to be what the story's about. I'm looking forward to that. Ken, what are you planning?
Oh, goodness. I think we've already...
Outside of Pinkerton's Ghost, then possibly Pinkerton's Ghost related.
I mean, outside of Pinkerton's Ghost, I've got so much. I've actually got a couple projects that I need to... I believe I mentioned my artist friend with the cartoon studio. I've actually got a Christmas special that I really want to get planned, but there's going to have to be some work that I get from some copyright permissions from some people. But I'm really impressed with the possibility. I've got actors lined up who are willing to work on it. My friend with the studio has already expressed an interest to work on the project. And if I can make it work, it might actually be something that can get a consistent amount of work in our sphere, because we're always talking about wanting to have an alternative to Hollywood for visual entertainment. This would definitely be a way to make it work if this kind of flagship project succeeds. And it has nothing. It's
Sounds
only
good.
tangentially related to the King of the World parody. It's not going to be this project is not going to be a parody of any sort. It's just going to be an earnest, honest cartoon telling of one of our authors' works, provided they're able to give me permission.
I know what you're referring to, and I bet you that he.
You cut out, so I'm not sure what you said there.
I said I know what you're referring to, and I bet you that he will give permission.
That would be fantastic. In fact, now I think about it, I really should write to them, because right now I've got everything lined up on my end for it to happen in the next. I mean,
I'd get
I'd
that
say 4
handled
months.
if I were you.
Say what?
I'd get that handled if I were you.
Yeah, I would too. It's frustrating. It's odd, because not only have I got this thing coming up that I wanted to do for the last 4 or 5 weeks, but I've also got the next episode of my Little Mermaid thing. Although the next one is going to be songs from Aladdin. And then I've also got a friend who wants my help doing an audiobook version of a children's Bible that I'm actually really excited to work on.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that. That sounds a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, we found something. It wasn't. We wanted to do a children's Bible, but unfortunately, the publisher wasn't able to give us permission for that, because there already is an audiobook series of that. But we found a fascinating children's devotional that's basically about science and God, and it really shows a really good understanding of both concepts from a creationist, but also from an actual science perspective. So we're kind of hoping to do that too, because it's a good primer for these sorts of things for kids to begin them thinking about God and science in the same breath, which modern society is trying to quell, even though they used to be hand in hand throughout all of human history.
Yep.
That sounds like it's going to be a really, really cool product.
I hope so.
Ben, what are you up to currently?
I am working on mostly I'm working on Pinkerton's Ghosts, and I'm working out. I am beginning to really in-depth plot out novel series set in space to the Soul Anthologies Ziggurats of the Ghost King, because that always was envisioned as a series. And in general, I'm just making sure Pinkerton's Ghost is turning out. I've had a whole bunch of things happen to me over the last few months, and things are kind of settling down now, and I find I have more brain power to spend on writing and literature and just growing things where previously I couldn't. So it's like, the important things are now passing away much more than they were before. I want to give a thank you to our patrons, Carl among them, but also Cordell and quite a few more. Big thank you to Vanessa Vasquez, who loves our episodes, and to Woolis, who is encouraging us for a novel. A thank you to Bradford Walker and others. We do love you guys, and we do what we're writing for many reasons. For the Lord God Almighty, chief among them, but also for you. The people, to use Bane again. Torture a metaphor a bit, give them the business, violate some Geneva Conventions. and I'm thinking you'll be absolutely happy with what we're putting out there. I'm going to go on unauthorized excuse me, and upload Jack versus the Wild Hunt, which I think will be a real crowd pleaser, as well as helping out Anthony and Ken with their own projects as I can. Thank you. Was that?
And I shall be finishing Sub Story tonight.
Excellent. I will probably get it to you sometime Monday afternoon. Actually, it's pretty bad for me. But I've only had like 5 hours of sleep for the last 3 days.
That sucks.
But if I'm still up when you send it in, I'll definitely get it. But anyway, thank you all for listening, and I hope you join us again in the near future. Next week is Christmas. Is it Christmas 26th? We'll be streaming. We'll see what happens. See you guys.
Indeed.